Good evening and welcome to the Mancunian Way. I'm on with some great guests tonight in the forms of Pat, Rich and Macca. Great to all have you here.
Hey Ozzy, happy Friday. Hope you're well, mate. Thank you.
Yeah,
good to see you, mate.
Happy Friday. And Mackie, you didn't get the no colours and you have to wear a cap.
Yeah, I like to show off my hair though, mate. That's the thing, that last bit there.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone is well. Everyone's doing well.
Yeah, top of the wall, mate. Feeling good.
Yeah, sunny Sydney. It's been like sunny and 30 degrees for all week, so we're all in good moods.
Did you get that fog yesterday? Did you get that fog yesterday morning though, Rich?
No.
Yeah, we got.
It wasn't up early enough.
Yeah,
that's
probably it.
Yeah, we just pump our pollution down south, Pat.
That's it. Yeah,
we've got a solar-powered pollution pump.
Yeah, we don't know where it's coming from. Bit like the way they support baseball up there.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know what their angle is.
It was a bit surreal, mate, but it's been a lovely week, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a cracking week. Yeah, and as you can tell by Rich's attire and probably Macca's attire, like we've got so much to look forward to with Oasis around the corner, and yeah, it's gonna be biblical, man. All I can say. But yeah, we got plenty to talk about it, haven't we? Ozzy, got Everton, bit to talk about with the Premier League, possibility of fixtures being played abroad as well too. But you just wanted to kick it off with the Hitman.
Yeah, I just wanted to kick off, like you said, with the sad news of the inquest that's come out today about Ricky Hatton sadly taking his own life. And I think it's just really important right now that, we do kind of say, mental health is important to everyone. And I just want to say that, you're not alone. I think it's really important that if you are struggling, there are people who are out there who can help. And Samaritans, you can contact day or night on 116 123. And yeah, Dash has put the link for the website as well. Thanks, mate. Appreciated. Yeah, just want to say that, like I said, if anyone's struggling, please contact someone. It's important to talk. And our thoughts and prayers go out to Ricky's friends and family. So, yeah. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything on that.
Wise words, Ozzy. And I think, none of us know anyone who isn't touched by it in some way, if not personally impacted. Then, people very near and dearest to us all, impacted. And it's just, thank goodness the world's changing and, we're starting to talk about it, but particularly among men, there's still a lot of, a long way to go to really, being honest and, people talking about the problems before they become too big for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, mate. We've got a bit of an epidemic in Australia with this, and it's really important. We have one day a year which is Are You OK Day, but you've got to check in with your people on a regular basis. We've had a couple of instances locally where young men, literally 15, 16 years old, out of the blue, with no signs whatsoever. So we don't talk about it enough here, but it's a big, big problem, particularly in Sydney and the Australian cities. So I'd encourage you all to talk. The thing with the hitman, I really think we've got an opportunity to celebrate what we had with him, because, geez, mate, when you look at the footage of both the fights and the build-up to the fights, he brought something special. He brought something to boxing that hadn't been seen for a while. And when you see the names that have come out in tribute to him, this little lad from Manchester that had two dreams, and he said he wanted to be a world champion and he wanted to fight at Main Road. So we got the opportunity to fight at the Etihad. But geez, mate, when you see he brought 30,000 odd people to Vegas a couple of times, and the fun they had there, drinking the place dry. And I've never been a fan of booing the national anthem, but how funny it was with the Americans' reaction to the English giving it large while the Star Spangled Banner was being played. If you get the opportunity to watch that back, they are absolutely outraged, and all the Mancs are just laughing. So special place in our heart, Ricky Hatton.
Yeah, most definitely. As you said, Mako, it's important, especially amongst men, that they talk, because we always, hide our emotions. We don't talk about those feelings. We're supposed to be, men, and if men get on with it, when that's nothing further from the truth. Everybody, doesn't matter who you are, how successful you are, you can go through mental struggles, and you could go to that very dark place, and sometimes you can look completely fine from the outside to everybody else, but just it doesn't matter. And that's why it's important you check in with your friends and family. So yeah, anybody else like to say anything on the topic?
No, I had a pretty good say a few weeks ago when we did this on Blues Down Under, I think it was. But Samaritans is obviously your local support line in the UK, but out here I believe it's Beyond Blue, Lifeline. They're the most important ones, or probably the most direct ones to contact to. Just remember out there that it's okay to not be okay. You can talk to anybody, or somebody will be out there to listen. I'm absolutely sure of that. So yeah, look. Don't suffer in silence. Just speak up, speak out. Just find someone to talk to, because it's only going to help you. And to be honest, it makes those people feel better knowing that they can, that you can be a helping hand to them. So yeah, just always remember to look out for each other. At the end of the day, we're all just skin and bones, and sometimes life can be tough. You just don't be afraid to talk. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Definitely.
Right, final point, Ozzy. We got hit by it in about 1989, really similar situation. And all I wanted the week of the funeral was City to have a win. We played Aston Villa on the Sunday, live on TV, and we couldn't even win that for us. Couldn't believe it. Lost 2-0. Typical City. In the hour of need, they couldn't even buy a win. So I've never liked Aston Villa since.
Wow. Fair enough, mate.
All right. Now we'll move,
So-
Ozzy. We'll move on, but before we do, I'll just
Yeah.
quickly get these memberships out of the way anyway, because we just had a few pop up.
Yeah.
Adams Quinn with the 23 months, mate. Big up. Thank you for all your support. And Simon Clark's coming in with 21 months as well. And Foggy, as always, coming in with the big ones with 10 memberships there, 10 gifted memberships. Thank you to you, mate. If you did receive a membership from him, just big W's in the chat. I believe I ended up with one too. So, mate, big up yourself. Thank you so much for that anyway. We have to do this silly thing, don't we? Hang on a sec.
I'm emotional. I mean, this is a dream come true. All these guys deserve. All these guys around here.
Yeah, if we didn't do that, the big man would be upset if we weren't following the rules.
Yeah.
Just to let everyone know, Martin will not be joining tonight. He is taking a well-deserved night off. If anyone sees him, trying to get in, we'll be kicking him out. So we really want him to have a proper break and relax. So, but he will be back at the weekend, no doubt.
Just to add to what you guys were talking about before, in the U.S., anybody can just dial 211 if they want to talk to anybody in the U.S. You can just dial 211.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Appreciate it, mate. So we will move on now to the topics of the night. So our first topic is UEFA have confirmed that a La Liga game and a Series A game are going to be played abroad for the first time. Barcelona and Villarreal will be playing in Miami in the United States, and AC Milan versus Como will be played in Australia in Perth. Obviously, this has come with a lot of criticism. Obviously, UEFA are saying this is a one-off, that they're just kind of doing it because they want to grow the brands for those particular leagues. But I think obviously it's got everyone worried within Europe of fans, thinking, is this just the start? I personally think that this is something UEFA may say they've, it's a one-off, but it would not surprise me if more come in the future. I think for sides and for leagues, more particularly like La Liga and Series A, they are struggling financially. I'm sure Rich will be able to tell us a little bit more about that soon. So it's no wonder that those leagues are wanting to get more revenue. Obviously, for their local fan bases, I can only imagine how they feel, because I'm pretty sure if it's happening to us, we would feel the same way, upset and angry that this is probably going on. I think for the Premier League clubs, I think it's something some Premier League clubs, if not all, if we're being honest, would probably try and do if they could get away with. We obviously saw what happened a few years ago with the Super League, so it's very reminiscent of that. And I think it's a little bit harder because obviously those clubs that tried to break away found out through the fan backlash that it was something that fans were just not going to take at the time. But it's never gone away, whether it's a Super League, whether it's games being played abroad. So we're going to get onto this topic now, and I am going to start with Pat. What are your thoughts, mate?
Well, I'll start probably by breaking down each individual sort of fixture, because I think when you look at the logistics, the demographics, and that, they are a little bit different to each other. Firstly, you said it was AC Milan versus Como in Perth, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think a couple of I'm going to play devil's advocate of myself, because firstly, I don't think it's a good idea, but I can kind of understand why particularly one club is doing this. I think when you look at AC Milan, they have played international friendlies in Perth over the last 2 or 3 years. So you kind of feel like the writing was on the wall a little bit for them doing this. Secondly, there's obviously the ongoing saga with the ownership of the San Siro, because I believe it's just been bought out by the Milan clubs or some consortium that's involved with ownership of the Milan clubs or something. So there's obviously going to be a bit of moving around in terms of playing home venues and things like that as well. But overall, in terms of exposure for the Italian game, I feel like, what you're saying is this is purely a financial decision. I think the only way that they're really going to be able to compete with the Premier League is exposure abroad. And while I'm not necessarily a fan of it, I can understand why they're doing this. Because I feel like, at the end of the day, it's kind of a similar situation to where like we talk about with season ticket holders here at Manchester City, where they'd rather have a tourist or a day tripper, spending 500 quid a day rather than having a season ticket holder pay virtually nothing more than 10 or 20 quid a day per match. So I see why they're doing that. They're probably doing this too based off the popularity of, they've had decent crowds, I believe, at those Perth international friendlies as well. So the fact that they're making it a match where there actually is something something on the line in terms of a season, I can see why they're doing it. Like I don't agree with it, but I can see where it is. La Liga, in terms of Miami, I think, again, we'd have to talk to regular fans of like La Liga clubs to see what their opinion is. But I think if they were ever going to play a game, if La Liga team was going to play a game abroad, I think Miami would be the first, second, and third destination for them to go to, because La Liga's got a huge following in Latin America. Miami is basically the hub of Latin America for Latinos and Latinas, Latin Americans in both the United States and Central and South America as well. So I kind of see why they're doing it there, and I think the popularity would be there.
Messi's already there.
Messi's already there, exactly. So there is going to, so I could see I can understand why they're doing it, but the traditionalist side of me still thinks that leagues should stay in their respective countries, basically.
Yeah, no, that's all very good points, Pat. Macca, great to have you on Thursday night panel. What are your thoughts about it?
Thanks for having me, mate. I am absolutely outraged. I can't believe what I'm hearing. UEFA have got no teeth. FIFA have got no teeth. This is just an absolute disgrace for any fan that's sitting there as a season ticket holder or as a member at my least favourite club, Madrid, or one of my favourite clubs, Milan, to be told that a league game is going to be played overseas. It is absolutely disgraceful, and it's the start of a slippery slope. Make no bones about it, our owners will be thinking this as well, and the Premier League owners will be thinking, what a great idea. Millions and millions of pounds and dollars being generated by one game overseas, the television revenue being the first in. It'll just be spectacular wealth creation, but it is so wrong. It is so wrong. And you can be guaranteed that they will be thinking of ways, how can we get Liverpool versus Man United played anywhere else except at Anfield or Old Trafford? Where in the world can we play the Manchester derby? If they throw enough money at us, Ulaanbaatar for City versus United in years to come. It is so wrong. And I cannot believe that there's not more uproar. You know that if it goes to Miami, it'll be a full house. I imagine Perth will be really good ticket sales as well because of the uniqueness of having such a game there. But you might have guessed I'm pretty opposed to it.
Macca, do you not think it's unfair that United always have to play City and Manchester? They shouldn't be able to play where their fans are once or twice.
There is a bit of that, mate. Yeah. But unfortunately, the South London clubs will object.
Yeah, I suppose it's not really fair on Palace, is it?
Yeah, very true, Rich.
Do you get the sense, Macca, that the fixtures that we dread just watching on TV alone, never mind the fact that they're at the Etihad or at Anfield or Old Trafford? Do you think that is maybe we're about 5 or 10 years away from possibly having that? Because I don't think there'd be any possibility in the immediate future. But if this keeps going at this rate, do you think we're only about 5-10 years off from possibly having fixtures like that, like Manchester derbies in Tokyo or something? Or
the only thing that's stopping a Premier League fixture being overseas, Tokyo, I mean, Singapore, as you quite rightly, Rich, say, Singapore would be the ultimate for United as a home fixture. But make no bones about it, the Super League occurred because the powers that be have got no view on what the actual fans think. The fan base that exists in the UK is the one that should be considered first. And we're all here, expats, and we've got so many fans around the world now. Yeah, they should have an opportunity to see their team. That's what friendlies are for. That's what for pre-seasons are for. We've got we're one of the clubs that have gone really mad for pre-season, to the detriment of the real season at stages. But I cannot believe we're talking about real-time fixtures overseas. It's just it is the slippery slope, and if we don't get the same opposition we did to the Super League, it'll occur.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I look at is that the reason I think some of these clubs decided that they could do this, I think they've always had it on their plans. It's been going back for a long time, but we know that.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that really made it where they felt like, you know what, we can do this without fan support because of COVID. Because obviously the empty stadiums when football came back, but we couldn't go to stadiums and watch it. I think at that point they realised, do we really need fans? Can we get away with not having fans in the stadium? Even if they don't agree, can we still sell the rights to have, blah, blah. So, I think that was just a slippery slope for me where they realised that they could do what they want. Go on, Rich, sorry.
I think this has been inevitable because the NFL did it and did it very successfully, financially. And I think once the NFL did it and they showed they could make tens of millions of more dollars per year, the businessmen at FIFA, at UEFA, at every football club realised that this is a way we can create another base. The way Jacksonville's almost trying to create London as a second hub for a team. It's been played in Germany and Mexico and Brazil, in France, and
it'll be in Australia next year too, Rich.
And coming down to Melbourne, and a lot of the very same fans will be outraged about their clubs going overseas. Will probably go and watch. Probably been to watch the NFL games. There's probably outraged of Birmingham and outraged of London who've gone and watched 4 games at Wembley to see the NFL, but are outraged about the same thing happening. And that's the trouble. We still see, every one of us sees City as owned by us. It's part of us. We grew up with it. It belongs to us. Even if we're overseas, I'm not saying it belongs to us as in City Spain in Sydney every week, but it belongs to us. And the owners of the clubs, there's next to no owners in the Premier League who are from and supporters of. I think Tony Bloom might be about the only one in the entire Premier League who's semi-local to the club and supported the club. Everyone else there are owners, and they see the club as a business that they own. And that is the sad reality, is that these entities are coming up to billion pound turnover businesses owned by, in most cases, foreign billionaires who see them as a vehicle to fame and fortune and money and long-term money streams. And they know that upsetting the local fans to sell a game at $300 a ticket in another country will make them more money. And I'm not sure how much they care. I think it'll be a very, very long time before a game like City United goes, because I think economically that probably isn't quite the prize, quite the upside that, it'll be games like City, Brentford and Man United, Southampton,
Everton, stuff like that.
And it'll be the smaller club who be the team who's giving up the home game will get most of the money. So it'll be smaller clubs who will do it to try and catch up with bigger clubs. You see it in the rugby league in Australia where it happens. The richer clubs, by Brisbane, the richest club in the league, pays Manly, my local team, your local team, Macca, pays them for 10 years for Manly to give their home game to Brisbane in return for several $100,000. Brisbane makes it back because they sell out 40, 50,000 people. Manly make it back instead of 15,000 at home, they do it away. And I think that's the real danger, because I don't know that if you're Spurs, you don't necessarily need to sell a game overseas to make lots of money from your home game. But if you're Bournemouth and you're getting 13,000 and Man United are coming to Bournemouth and you get offered £5 million to put that game in New York, and that's £5 million that can buy you one more player to catch up, then there's a real temptation. And there is an incredibly unfair, disparity between the rich and the poor clubs. And that's why Spain wants to do it, because the Premier League is dominating Spain about, I think it's 2.5, 3 times the money coming in from TV rights to all the clubs. In fact, it's about 10 times the money coming into a bottom of the La Liga club compared to the bottom of the Premier League club. So, what's La Liga going to do? They don't want to be a second, third, fourth, fifth tier product, sport competition compared to the Premier League. They want to catch it. So they're doing all they can to catch it. And then the Premier League will want to stay ahead. So it's capitalism, and it's, the business of sport. It's been proven to work, whether the fans like it or not elsewhere. And I think it's coming, and I think it's not going to come from clubs necessarily from the clubs like the Red Cartel. I think it's going to come from the clubs at the bottom of the Premier League who need 300-400 million more revenue to have a chance to catch and compete with clubs like City. And they're going to see this as a way to maybe claw back 20, 30, 40 million. And that's where it'll come from. And, how outraged their fans will be, who knows? Because their fans should already be outraged. If you're a Bournemouth fan, you should be bloody outraged that you are capped by the rules of spending a quarter of what other clubs. You're supposed to compete with Liverpool and City, and you can only spend 25% of their money. So, the game is screwed at the moment in fairness, competition, and local fan terms. So this is just another rung on a bad ladder. But, I think it's going to happen for different reasons than people are currently thinking.
Yeah. Just before I get Ed's response, one of the things that I've seen in the chat that I kind of want to bring up is obviously, we talk about the players, we talk about like them playing too many games. It's not just about obviously playing too many games. This is about the effect it's going to have on their body and their mental state with traveling, being jet lagged from, when are they going to physically be able to deal with this kind of game?
It'll just end up with bigger squads. It'll be bigger squads.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Pep ain't going to be happy about that, but
we can't feel sorry for the players out. All of this happens because the players wanted to earn 50 grand a week, then 100 grand a week, then 200 grand a week, then 300 grand a week, then 400 grand a week, then 500 grand a week. Clubs, if they're going to suddenly pay a player who was on 50 grand 15 years ago, 500 grand, they've got to get the money. So I get, we've got a few players who do it a lot. The players who are picking up 15 million a year to play, and then they're complaining they have to play more football. Well, there is a trade-off here. Players are prepared to earn less. Clubs won't have to need to generate enough money. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I want to be, I'm Yamal, I want a new contract, I want $1 million a week, and not expect the Barcelona then have to go out and find an extra 30 million quid, because they do. And so the greed in the game is coming at all levels. It's coming from every aspect of the game, the agents, the players, the clubs. Let's be honest. Let's not paint any of them as victims. They're all trying to make more money. And, many people say fair play to that, but you can't get that money and then whinge about the consequences, the inevitable consequences of it.
Yeah, I mean, the other negative consequence that I think, that we haven't really touched upon just yet is what happens to when a game is played abroad, and obviously whoever's fixture is home or away, well, that's going to have an impact possibly on relegation. So at the moment, we're not seeing the big clubs go to head-to-head. I mean, the 4 clubs that are involved, obviously, are, 2 kind of big boys with Barcelona and AC Milan. But you think of Como and Villarreal, are slightly those clubs that are going to be down towards the bottom of their respective leagues. So if we're talking about a Premier League game, well, how is that going to affect, the likes of where Wolves are right now? So if they go and have to play Manchester United away in Miami, and then they don't have that reverse fixture, but it can be an impact on their league where they sit in the league form. Do you know what I mean? How is that going to affect the league ultimately?
Yeah, but I think
thoughts, mate?
for me, I think that's the club
and will compensate them.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that the clubs will be agreeing upon losing that advantage, that home field advantage, by taking the money, though. I think, that's where a lot of this is coming from. I think the clubs are the ones driving this, unfortunately. And I think we're a little bit, I agree with Rich on a lot of points. I think we're kind of like far away from like the big boys playing each other away at just because of the history. And I think fans will, you see some protests from fans if that will happen right now. But at the same time, I do understand it from the club's perspective, especially when you have clubs like Man City. Every time they go abroad, they're selling a lot of tickets. They're selling a lot of merchandise. So it is a financial incentive involved here. And, that's why they're having a meeting next week about a salary cap, and all that stuff. So, I mean, I'm not for or against it. I just want, I know the players are getting a lot of money, but you still want to keep the guys that's putting their bodies online at the forefront for a lot of these things too.
Yeah.
They'll just earn more money. They'll be fine. I mean, the interesting thing is, the home team is the one who's losing the advantage. So they're the ones ultimately who are going to get the most money and get the most kit. But I don't know. I can see reasons why if you were, a team right down the bottom, why you'd want to do it. If you play City in Kazakhstan, City might rest a few players. You might gain something, and equally, the flip side is the away team get a free hit at that territory without having to pay for it. But it's the business of sport. I mean, the only way it's ever going to change is if the Premier League goes down, an even more rigid path than Germany and starts putting money as a secondary thing to the fans, and there's not any sign of it. All the stuff the Premier League does, let's be honest, about all these salary caps, it's not being done for the good of the game. It's being done because owners want to increase their revenue and hold down the costs. They just want to distort. They want all the benefits of capitalism and they want to distort the disbenefits. So, I mean, everything the Premier League does is about money. And they talk about the good of the game. And yes, there are elements where you make more money by making the game better, you're making it more widespread, making it more interesting, making it more open, but it's all about money.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the second point, because I think you've kind of brought us to our second topic really quite nicely, Rich. Is about the latest news with the Premier League set to vote on the salary cap and what potential impact that has on the spending of each of clubs. Now, obviously, I'm no financial expert, and Rich will be able to explain this a lot better than probably most of us. But from what my understanding is that this will have an effect on the outgoings of like transfer spending and salaries, obviously. And I know that again, this point was made earlier on, where it's worked kind of like with the NFL, as we were talking about previously, but the big difference there is that there's no promotion, there's no relegation in the NFL, so it doesn't have the same financial impact that it would do on like the Premier League if they were to bring this in.
Ozzy, before Rich goes, and I think it's going to be two separate points, right? There's going to be the 85%, and then there's the anchoring part of it. So I think it's two separate things they're voting on.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't fully understand it. I'm not even going to pretend to do. Literally I understand is that they're looking at bringing in a salary cap. So, Rich, you will know a lot more about this than I will, mate. So, do you want to kind of give us an idea of the ins and outs of this?
Yeah, I mean, from what I read, the anchoring's really that if the bottom club spends 100 million on, and I think it's not just wages, it's wages and transfer fees. So I guess that'll be the amortization. You're allowed to spend about 5 times as much now. How spending 5 times as much as some idea of fairness and competitiveness. I don't know, because I'm thinking if a club's allowed to spend 5 times what another club spends, it's already the game's already gone. And whether you're saying, "I will stop it from being 6," well, 5, 6, what's the difference? It's not a real attempt at fairness. And be interested to see how the Premier League reacts, because the Premier League, and it seems to me there's rules in Europe. Half the Premier League has to adhere to the rules in Europe. And why on earth you'd need 2 sets of rules so that clubs are managing 2 sets of fair play? But it just seems ridiculous to me. It seems that the best option would be every club in Europe agreeing domestic rules and international rules that are pretty much the same, and keeping it simple as well, because it's becoming like tax law. There's loopholes, and that's what the whole thing the 115 is about. Loopholes. Can you do this? Can you sell your women's team and generate 100 million profit so you can spend an extra 80 million that year over the 3? It's just a nonsense. I'd much rather see. There's 2 ways for me. One is free for all, where you say we're not going to restrict anyone. You can just do what you want and let football be free, as it was for obviously there were 2 shilling a week wage caps and stuff, but for all our childhood it was just a free for all, and it didn't result in some clubs spending 50 billion a year on wages. And I don't think that's rational. Or you go with the model that most other sports have, which is actually a salary cap, which is not 5 times other clubs. It's very similar. If you go into some of the US sports, not all of them, you go into rugby union, rugby league, the salary caps are pretty close. So you have sports where there's a lot more competition. Clubs lose players that they love because they have to go elsewhere to earn big money, and you have a very fair, even competition. And for me, you either do that or you go free for all. That the idea that what we seem to do in the Premier League is we fix rules that help the rich and penalise the poor. That that just seems. It seems. I think I used the example once that the way Premier League fair play rules work at the minute, it's the small clubs who are failing them, not the clubs at the top of the league. I don't mean small clubs. That's wrong. That sounds like Richard Masters. They're very big clubs, but they're economically and in their revenue turnover smaller. They're the ones failing it because they're failing it trying to catch the teams at the top. That is the exact opposite of what should be happening. You should be trying to slow down the top and let people catch them up, make it more competitive. That's what should be being done. It's the reverse of the Grand National. You're taking the best horse in the Grand National and you're putting them off 10 stone, and you're taking the worst horse and giving them 12 stone, and then seeing if handicaps work in reverse. It's just wrong.
Rich, what about something along the lines of like what say Major League Baseball teams do, where they have a certain threshold in terms of their payroll, but then if they go over, they have to pay like a 50% luxury tax? Would that work, or do you think that would just hamper the bottom half of clubs even more?
Well, no, because that luxury tax can be shared with the rest of the league. So
yeah,
imagine.
But would a system like that work if it was implemented into Premier League football?
Possibly, but I think we're just getting more and more complicated. The more we do that, the more we're turning it into leagues are going to be won because they've got the smartest lawyers, accountants, and tax people, not because they've got the best footballers. And it's not what we want. We shouldn't even be talking about this. We should be talking about, every week. And I'm not talking about us criticising the Mankini one. Just talk about in general. You put on YouTube and you get 10 things about football coming up, and 5 of them are about fair play. And we put all these rules in place, and yet we still allow people like Reading's owner and Sheffield Wednesday's owner to come in the game. And, in the case of Sheffield Wednesday, nearly kill one of the great clubs of English football. Yeah. A club we've won the league twice as many times as Tottenham Hotspur. So, you know,
we know Richard isn't working. Let's be honest. Financial fair play hasn't worked for the reasons it was brought in. Supposedly, it just hasn't done the job that it was set out to do. It hasn't stopped clubs from either going bust or nearly bust. It hasn't stopped from bad owners coming in, like you said, with the example of Sheffield. So I think something does need to change and happen, but it has to be done right. And at the moment, all I keep seeing is just people messing it up constantly. And it just seems like it's, and like you said, Rich, this is all seems like we talk about it. And football has slightly become, we're not talking about the literal football. We're talking about, like, you know, the financial side and the you know, the whole rules are not quite right, VAR, and, you know.
Well, when did so much white collar in football become in the spotlight as well, Ozzy?
Yeah.
The owners get as much spotlight as the players do.
Yeah, just got to look at the motivations behind it. What were the motivations behind financial fair play? Was it altruistic reasons to make sure that no clubs ever went out of business and everything was fair? Not a bit of it. Not a bit of it. It was about protectionism of, at the time, the Big Five or the Big Six. And this is another example of what the accountants and what the people at the top want to do to keep all the others at bay. It's self-interest. It's not altruism.
Yeah, great. And you know, and I suspect there was, in the very early thoughts of FFP, altruism in it, and then the Big 12, what they called that group of 12 clubs who basically took it on. They thought, well, how can we make this an advantage? It's like the Premier League. None of the decisions the Premier League make are being done for the good of football. They're being done for a group of clubs, and it's then down to which other clubs, small groups of clubs, can bring in. You know, in the case of one of the votes recently, you know, virtually blackmailing, you know, pretty openly blackmailing Everton to change their vote by threatening to put something in the rules if it went one way that would effectively utterly screw Everton, I think Brighton. So it is pretty much now who can get a group around them to work together to make the Premier League do what they want, and then how can they pull in the other clubs. So it's you know, dark rooms, dark conversations, self-interest. None of it is in the interest of, none of it concerns the fan, none of it concerns the good of the game. It just concerns how can a certain group of clubs maximize their profit. Nothing else. And sadly, you know, and there isn't an easy answer because, you know, a lot of people idealistically say, well, the clubs could be owned by the fans and then vote and everything, but that's the results
like they
of
do in Germany.
Well, no, like look at Barcelona, Madrid, and then it becomes an election between two people who say they're going to spend the most and buy the best players and do this. And to win, you have to, like in real life, to win, you have to basically be prepared to bankrupt the country you're running, because you win by promising to spend a lot and not charge much or tax people, and therefore you run up debt for your grandkids. And that's what happens when democracy exists in football. So I don't know how easy the answers are, but I do think it works better in sports like rugby league than it does in football. But maybe they're small enough and niche enough that it can work. And football is so global, I don't know if the same things can work. Even in the US, they're playing in such a, you know, they're not going to lose. The Yankees aren't going to lose their best baseball player to France or to Greece or to Saudi Arabia. The NFL teams aren't going to lose their quarterback somewhere else. So in a way, as long as they can agree amongst themselves, they can get something done, and it's not going to have external consequences. Whatever the Premier League does, there's 30, 40, 50 leagues out there in the rest of the world who, if the Premier League makes a mistake, will want to take advantage.
Kathy brings up a point. What about the independent regulator?
Yeah, it's all gone quiet, hasn't it?
I suppose the question always is, how independent are they?
Yeah. And are they going to have like a Bournemouth budget to deal with? I suspect the independent regulator is going to have the budget of the youth team of one Premier League player. So, they're going to have to be incredibly strong and have incredible legislative support to be any use at all.
Trust me, we'll hear more about it when 115 drop.
Yeah, exactly. Although, actually, I was going to say, Pat, you might find in the press this weekend that the Mancunian Way proposed the independent regulator. So Manchester City are now at 116 charges.
Yep. Well, I'm counting more like 120, 121, mate, because there's going to be one for every member of the panel. Just quickly, super chat from Outdoor Benj with the £2. He just wishes us all a good evening. So big up yourself, mate, for that contribution. Thank you. So that was all good. I just noticed a comment here from Slime 1198. No, mate, we're definitely not Sheikh Mansour out. We try to look at a bit more pragmatic, where we also believe that what we've had since Mansour's come in is beyond anything we could have ever dreamt. What we believe that there should be other clubs should be allowed to have a big investment owner, an owner who wants to come and invest in their club. And Newcastle got it, but the problem is that we were the last probably over the drawbridge before the drawbridge came up in terms of financial regulations that were imposed by certain clubs or by certain leagues and things like that too. So we're never Mansour out. We look at it in a way where we believe that other clubs should be allowed to have an owner who wants to come in and spend money on their club and try and get success. But problem is that it's not what it used to be, I'm afraid. So if you want a prime example, just look at what Newcastle's dealing with at the moment.
Yeah, and as much as we all want City to win the league every year, we still want that competition. Do you know what I mean? Unlike other leagues where in Spain, Germany, where pretty much you can guarantee one club is going to win the league. In the Premier League, it has been different history-wise. It has been, there's obviously been more of a challenge at least. Obviously, we've kind of dominated over the last few years, obviously, but it's still, you still want to have that title rush. You still want to have that excitement. You still want the Liverpools, the Arsenals, and the others, still snapping at your heels or being in front and them thinking they're going to win the league, and then obviously the big blue shark comes up behind you, and then has happened to for a few of these clubs, and we've won the league. So, as you said, Pat, the likes of Newcastle, we want to be able to see these clubs, knock some of these other so-called bigger clubs out from under, because we want them to challenge. We want them to have some success. It shouldn't just all be about the so-called big six. Do you know what I mean? We want to see competition in this league, but it has to be done sensibly. It can't just be done like, anyone can spend billions and billions of pounds and, buy all the best players, and then they just have a monopoly on the whole thing. So that's the way I look at it anyway. So.
It's part of the reason why there's people out there that actually prefer to watch the Championship, because they know they're not going to be dealing with the same 5-6 clubs competing for a league every single year. It changes all the time. Now I know it's a bit more difficult because you're talking about opposite ends of the table in terms of Premier League, but with the Championship you got 24 teams all vying for 6 spots. So I get why it's different, but if people want it, a lot of people, I can see why they probably aim for the Championship too, is because if you want to be entertained and it to be competitive, then that's probably a better option, to be honest. I mean, you're looking for a slight drop in quality of football, but if you want to be entertained, that's probably the way to go. But also saying that too is, and we've said it before a million times, is in the last 4 to 5 years, how much the sort of mid, even to lower table, lack of a better term, mid to lower sort of table teams have become a lot more competitive now. Bournemouth's a prime example under Iraola. Aston Villa's had a huge revival under Unai Emery as well. That's just two. Brentford under Thomas Frank were always a competitive side. So you got to give credit where it's due as well too, that there are a lot more clubs that are sort of knowing that because they can't compete financially with their owners, they're doing it in other ways, whether it's through the academies, through proper scouting, or just sensible transfers and having a manager that knows what he's doing as well too, and making it more competitive and giving these clubs an opportunity to get into the European competitions as well. So in terms of overall competitiveness and excitement, I still think the Championship is probably one of the most exciting leagues in the world, just because what's at stake and how much, you know, positions in the league table can change. But you've also got to give credit to a lot of that bottom half of the league table as well too, because it's not the same as it was about 10 years ago. And I do give credit that they do make it somewhat more entertaining.
Yeah, mate. The beauty of this league is that top can beat bottom on any day, and some of the results that you see, you know, you
think top maybe Mecca.
Top, oh yeah, top can always beat bottom. I'm thinking Madrid, aren't I? Bottom can beat top, and you look back, mate. Some of these results, when you've seen Southampton at the bottom and they've beaten some of the top teams out of the blue. Some of the results that we had last season, but that's the beauty of it, you know. I'd love to have a bet on football, but I can't remember the last time I had a win. It's just disastrous when you're a betting man.
Indeed, and bet responsibly. Just to put that out there.
Right, so we're going to lose.
You win some, you lose more.
Yeah, exactly. So we've been going at the financial stuff and all that kind of stuff. Let's move that behind us now, because I think we should be getting on to obviously back to the football, because that's what we all really want to talk about and that's what we're here for. So let's get into the Everton game, and obviously, you know, after the international fixture, thank God it's finished, because, you know, I don't know about anybody else, but I cannot be bothered with it. I just can't wait until the Premier League is back. And, you know, I know we've got another break coming up in another few weeks, so it's just like, at least it's the last one for the year. That's all I can say.
At least we have 115 to think it's going to drop every day during international breaks. Other clubs don't even have that.
Yeah, that's very true.
The impending 24-hour stream, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Rich. It looks like it's not going to drop this international break. We'll just have to wait for the next international break to see if it drops then again. So look forward to that stream. So a little news that I have got, and it's from Tone. So thank you very much, Tone, for giving me the info. He says that Rodri is out. That's now confirmed. Kuzanov didn't train, but possibly he's going to train this week. So we'll have to wait and see whether he has any sort of kind of playing time at Everton. But what the good news is Ait Nouri, Omar Mouche and Cherki are all fine. So that is good news that those three players at least are fit and ready to go. And hopefully Rodri and Kuzanov are back soon, because obviously, you know, Rodri's obviously why we'd miss him, but Kuzanov for me has been outstanding at right back, and I only want to see him play there, to be honest. So
yeah. You know what for me is a little bit exciting is Marmouche. I've listened to podcasts, I've watched City shows, and he's almost like the forgotten player. I thought he was by far the best of our January signings. I thought he scored one of the best goals we've seen in years, and he was going, I think, starting to look a very, very, very good player. And he's almost been completely forgotten. City fans talk about their composite teams and they forget he exists. And it's like, seriously, we talk about Cherki, but we've already got Marmouche.
And we haven't even seen.
We'll say the same thing when he comes back from AFCON as well.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll kind of forget that he's gone on that as well.
Yeah.
And obviously, we haven't seen really much of Cherki apart from one game. And Ait Nouri again had a couple of games and then was injured. So, we really haven't seen these players have any sort of chance yet and a proper, game. So, we've got so much to look forward to players we've signed. We've not really seen them play very much. So, I just think it's so exciting that, we are where we are in the league, minus these players. Do you know what I mean? I just think once we've got a completely fully fit squad on paper, and not just on paper for me, but we have got one of the best squads in the Premier League, if not in Europe, with the amount of talent we've got. And that's not even talking about some of the young talent that we've got, the likes of O'Reilly, and the rest, you know. So, I mean, yeah.
Just
Can I
needs
just
to
say
click
one
into
thing too,
place.
talking about Nico O'Reilly as well, is that I hope Pep. I'm glad that Ait-Nouri is back, but I really would be disappointed if Ait-Nouri came in replacement Nico O'Reilly, because I think Nico O'Reilly's the first choice left back at the moment, and I think Ryan Ait-Nouri is going to have to play his way back in, whether it's match fitness, form, through the cup matches. I don't know, but at the moment, I would not be getting rid of Nico O'Reilly off that left back position at the moment.
Yeah, I'll be the same part. I'd have him starting, and then you've got an opportunity to take him off later in the game. But I'm a big fan of him. As you know, I just want to see more of his mother. I think she's got the best accent I've ever seen. And I'm excited about Kuz coming back, because when you think about what we're going to do against Everton, I'll take a clean sheet. That's all I want, a clean sheet, and the odd goal would be nice, but I just want to see us not concede.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever hear anyone say that, Macca, to be fair.
And to be honest too, mate, the last few years, that Everton fixture at home has been just a dull, dour 1-1 draw. You know, it's for the last few years, it's been considered like probably one of our worst home fixtures of every season. You know, the treble season was an awful performance. You know, 4 in a row, I think, was also a 1-1 as well too. So, and then last season was a really damp, dour 1-1 as well. So it's been frustrating. Like, you know, there's an opportunity there to put those Everton sides to the sword, and we don't seem to do it. And, you know, I do hope that we can step our game up, especially because I think Everton, you know, are getting a good tune with David Moyes as manager again. And, you know, they are playing some decent football. And, well, I think I could speak for most of us by saying that this so-called Jack Grealish guy that they've got, I don't know where he came from, but, you know, I'm kind of glad that he's not available to play on the weekend. So
he's looking good, actually. We should have a look at him.
Yeah. I'm not sure I want to spend anywhere near 3 figures for him.
I don't know if I'd call him a £100 million player, but, you know,
yeah.
But I'm hoping Agent Moyes gets a good reaction, a good reception. I think he's done a cracking job over the years, Moisey. And I can't remember, was he the chosen one? I can't quite remember what he was called then. Was he the chosen one?
Yeah.
Chosen replacement.
Good on him. Started the slippery slope.
I agree with you, Macca. I think he's one of those managers that he's definitely kind of, you know, there's a lot of people who don't respect what Moyes has done over the last how many decades he's been a manager now. The likes of when he was at Everton originally, and then obviously getting the United job. That was never going to be easy for anybody. But I just think of what he did at West Ham, and I think what West Ham fans and ownership didn't realise what they had until they lost it, and now look where they are. You know, so I think he is one of those managers that I think most, even Pep would probably say, that they don't want to come up against, really, because he's stubborn, but he can also nick it from you. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think, even though I think looking back over the years of when we played them, you know, we've obviously come off the favourable side most of the time. Yes, it's been a 2-0, a 1-1, or it just seems like it's always been one of those games where
we've always played them better at Goodison than we have at the Etihad.
Yeah,
true.
We always play better against them away.
But we shouldn't overhype it too much. I mean, it's 8 years and 17 games since they've beaten us. It's the best part of 15, 16 years since they've won at the Etihad. So, you know, it's like one of these games that we talk of as a real bogey team, but I think it's more that there's been some dour matches more than they've got a good record. I mean, at one point we'd won about 10 on the trot against them.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't jinx it, though, Rich.
Well,
I think he's known for doing it.
I think we should put some importance on getting 3 points at this one too, because I think the first thing we do when we look at the opposition is we also look at those teams closest to us in the league table and go, right, who are they playing? And you've got to think, you've got Liverpool playing United. Now, I expect Liverpool to win, but for the last few years, we've said that, and we've said we've expected Liverpool to beat United at Anfield, and it's turned into some weird 1-1 draw or something, or even United poaches a bloody win or something like that. But also, too, you've got Arsenal playing away at Fulham as well, and Marco Silva, he's got, I wouldn't say he's got Arteta's number at the moment, but they've found it difficult few years to play Fulham. They've always found it difficult to play against them. So this might be a good opportunity just to get ourselves in a bit closer into the top of the league. You know, top of the league
Tottenham
position.
play Brighton.
Tottenham play Brighton, exactly. Never easy with them. So so the so I think Martin actually said it just coming off starting international break. He said by the time I think we play who we got after Everton in terms of the league, is it Bournemouth?
I think it's Villa, isn't it?
Villa?
Oh, Villa. No, it's Villa. So we play Villa away before
league.
Liverpool and Arsenal play their fixtures, I believe, or something. So there's every opportunity
next
by
3
the end of
games,
November, by the end of October, we could be top of the league.
Come on.
I think most pundits and opposition fans would put us there.
I don't want us going top this early. Totally unnecessary. We want to go top in February and stay top. We don't want Christmas titles. We don't want all that nonsense. Let's keep it as it is. We're, as far as the media's concerned, massive outsiders. We haven't got a chance. Let's keep it like that for a little longer. There's no point being top in October and getting all the attention off the Arsenal.
Stay humble.
Vimto kid with his mediocrity right there. Yeah.
Arsenal can't choke if they're second.
Well, I think for me, the player I'm most looking forward to, and I think the player that can have maybe the biggest impact on the weekend is probably Cherki for me, just because of that right wing side is kind of the place that we're not saying we for sure know who our starter is, and just with the style of play Everton's going to play against us, I think that extra bit of creativity might be needed. And I think, Cherki might be chomping at the bit to get back out there and, being at home to show something to the fans.
Ed, do you think Cherki will get in ahead of Doku? I think Doku's going to move to the right. I think Marmoush is going to go in on the left once he's fully fit.
Yeah. I don't know if you move him, though, Rich. I don't know if you move him because this is the best we've seen him ever in a Man City,
I think you're right, Rich. I think it's at the moment. I think Ed's right as well. Is that right wing spot seems it's very open. No one has nailed it down. I think Bob has looked all right. He's a really good player. He's got a lot of talent, and I've seen glimpses. The problem is the end product and just that he needs a goal for me.
But I think that's unfair to Bob. I think when Bob's played, apart from at Spurs when there were, issues in the centre midfield, I think Bob's played. City have generally played well, and I think he's fitted in really well. And I think that some people get caught up on the stats that Bob hasn't got an assist in a game where he's had a really solid game, where he hasn't lost the ball, where he's helped the right back, and where he's been really tidy. And I think you go back to 2023, and you even go back to David Silva. David Silva, in stats numbers, if he was playing at his prime today, there'd still be City fans going, "Oh, he doesn't get enough goals. He doesn't get enough assists." Grealish in 23 didn't get goals and assists, and I think Bob is a bit like Grealish in 23. He has a solid game. That side of the pitch plays well, but he doesn't get the stats. So I think it's unfair to not to me. He should have nailed down the place, because when he's played, he's been good enough that he should play. But there's a few agendas against him because he's 70 million.
I'm not putting an agenda against him, Rich. That's far from.
No, I wasn't meaning you. There is someone with an agenda against him, though.
Well, that's true. We'll try and leave him out, but it was more the fact that I just
say it 3 times, you'll appeal like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, that's true. Don't do it, please.
But you know what? After what the Norway manager said about Oscar Bob, mate, I hope he's got the bit between his teeth. That's for sure.
Yeah, nice incentive.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm with you, Rich. I think he's a quiet achiever.
Yeah, and
he's got a great song as well. Great song.
I think obviously, I think the person that I feel will have the most impact on this game is just the person who's just been a monster so far, is Haaland. I just think at the moment he has just gone up another level. Like, some people are turning around saying, no, this is his treble winning form. I actually think it's not that. I actually think it's more than that. I think he really has developed into another level of Haaland. You know, we are seeing. I think we're starting to see him come into his, you know, so-called prime. You know, when most players like him come into the kind of 27. I mean, he's only 25. You know, we're talking about. I'm talking about him coming into, you know, his prime. But I just think. I think we're just going to see the best of him this season. I think he's going to show us that he's just that mentality monster. He's just going to, you know, keep scoring and scoring and scoring. And there's been a lot of kind of people saying, is he the best striker that the Premier League has ever seen? And I've heard a lot of pundits go around and go, no, don't be stupid. You know, Thierry Henry, and they've listed off so many people. I even heard Dropper mentioned at one stage, and I was like, are you being serious, right? You're putting Dropper above Haaland. No, that's just nonsense. Now, don't get me wrong, good striker, but come
clutch
on.
striker
Yeah.
too, very clutch. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Drogba's the Chelsea Gerrard. He's in conversations he shouldn't be in.
yeah, exactly, Rich. So, you know, I just think the level of disrespect from certain pundits is just beyond a joke. You know, he is the most deadliest striker of the ball that I've ever seen. And I just think, regardless of it, that he can't do flicks and tricks and whatever, that's not what his job is about. His job is to put the ball in the back of the net, and he's the most prolific goal scorer I've seen the Premier League has ever seen. And I think, you know, we can talk about him in that bracket. I think we can say he is the best there has been, because he's breaking records left, right, and centre. That's just my opinion. But
15 goals on 25 shot, guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll have that Aussie as well. He's one of the greatest finishers you'll ever see, and that's been amazing. Start of the season, I never really want to be critical of him because he's just amazing, but he wasn't winning enough first balls, he wasn't winning enough second balls, and suddenly it's like he's woken up, and he is, and he's tracking back whether we need him to do that or not. And yeah, if this continues, mate, we're on for a really good season.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest improvement he's made from the time he came to Man City is his hold-up play and his link-up play. Not really in the final third, because he was sort of kind of doing that, but I would say more in the defensive area. I think really people saw that, especially against Arsenal, the way he was holding up the ball when we were playing more defensively and bringing in a Doku, bringing in, a Foden and a Reinders for the goal he had in that game. And, I think, with everything going on around him, with being in the leadership group, I think he's responded, really good to all those things. And we have a special player. You can't deny it.
Absolutely.
Just looking at this, Erling Haaland has been him. He's just started his fourth season at Manchester City, and he's already 38th on the all-time list with 94 goals.
Yeah.
Two ahead of the great Mark Viduka, and if he scores a brace against Everton, he'll move up to 37th, passing Ruud van Chickensnitzelrooy.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly think that he's on course. If he stays in the league and he stays out to his contract, I think he's on course to break Alan Shearer's record.
Yep.
I really do. With the amount of goals he's scoring,
he only needs to average 20 a season for the entirety of his contract, and he's well past Shearer.
Yeah.
Could he get as far as Greavesy? Hey, the great Jimmy Greaves, when football existed before 1992.
Yeah, true.
not if he drank as much as Jimmy, he couldn't.
Right, I'm going to leave you because I've got work to do, but I'll just leave you with one thing. Greavesy, I saw him last night, and he was quoting about he got onto the drink after the World Cup, but into the 70s really, and he said it basically him and George Best through the 70s lost a bit of time because they were just drinking. So he said, I was thinking of writing a book, but if any of you know where I was, if you could just let me know, I can start that book. I think he had one or two.
I think you might be right there, yeah. Mac, honestly, it's been a pleasure having you on the Thursday night chat, mate. I know you've been on the Blues Down Under, and you've done really well over there from what I've heard. I haven't seen very much, but I have heard good things, and tonight you've only cemented that more. So hopefully we'll get you back on another Thursday night soon, mate.
Yeah. What's your score prediction? What's your score prediction, by the way, Macca?
1-0. I'll take 1-0.
Fair
Right,
enough. Can't go wrong there, mate.
Yeah.
See you then, boys.
Big up,
See you
mate.
later,
Thanks
mate.
for everything.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the other things that I think, you could say, I think could have another standout performance is Donnarumma. Do you know what I mean? I think we've said it since the start. He's come in. I think he's just been absolutely immense. And going back to the Brentford game and that one-on-one with Thiago, I just thought he is a phenomenal player that can just make sure we do have more clean sheets. Because I just think he has got that mentality. I really do. And it just feels
the presence.
Yeah,
It's
and
his
the presence
on the pitch.
Yeah, his leadership as well, Rich. And I just think he commands not only the goal area, but he commands that back four as well. Do you know what I mean? That back four seems more solid and more, happy when he is there at the back than I've ever seen, really.
Yeah, I think we've lacked a bit of personality. A few of our strongest personalities have left in the last. You think back 5-10 years ago and how many really strong personalities there were on the pitch, and we're kind of a bit left with, Bernardo as a really, really strong personality. But a lot of our other players, even our top players, Rodri is as well, but they're not massive now. Haaland has stepped up. I think, the one thing we haven't talked about, Haaland's game's up a level, but it's how much more involved I think he's been kind of defensively, trying to organise play before and after games, the interviews. I think Haaland's stepped up, and I think Donnarumma has come in and offered a bit of that as well. So that Bernardo, I was a bit worried, Bernardo, almost our only strong personality left, but I now feel Haaland stepped up. I think Donnarumma stepped up. So we now got that core of senior experienced players. And where that'll matter is, last October, November, it was the way we crumbled after conceding goals, or when things went against us, we would crumble in 5 or 10 minutes. We could throw away an entire game. And I think now we've got Donnarumma, and he's not without a mistake. He made a mistake midweek, for Italy, but he's experienced enough that if something like that happens or a goal goes in, it's gone. He's focused on the next thing. He's organising, and we're moving on. And I think that's what really, makes me, think that that's going to really, we've got a very young team now, a lot of really good young players, a lot of really promising players, but they've now got that core of big heads to just talk them through it, talk them through it, help them through it, deal with the bad moments.
Yeah. Or if just going back to his mistake, if he just keeps them to the international, keeps it just for Italy and makes them there, I'm happy with that, to be fair. So, yeah. What are our thoughts on, because obviously, like I said at the beginning, like the predictions of on who's out. So we know Rodri's out now. It's more likely that Nico G will be our defensive midfielder. And again, there's been a lot of criticism. There's been a lot of agendas going on against him. How are you feeling, Pat, about him starting this game?
Well, I think it's the way to go for now until we know Rodri's back at full fitness. That said, too, I've always been of a belief that if Rodri isn't playing the sixth role, then whoever does play there has to have some sort of a support act. Now, whether that's a back, Bernardo Silva playing like a little rover and being, several places at once, then that's the way it goes for me. Big question also too becomes how close are we to having Kovacic back as well too, because that's going to offer a different dynamic to our midfield that we haven't seen all season yet. So, for now, Nico G is the way to go, because I think he did a good job coming off the bench against Brentford, which, as we know, can be a tricky fixture. So at the moment, nothing but good things for Nico G at the moment. and I just hope he does have a good game. I'd hate to see if there was anything happen where there might be a mistake leading to a goal. Then obviously, there's going to be certain sections of the fan base coming down hard on him as well. So it's tough for him because, I think he's probably the first person that has a magnifying glass on them once Rodri goes down with an injury or is unable to play a game. So I just hope that he does play well, but also too, I think it's important that he has the right sort of coverage or the right sort of players around him as well too, just to make his job a little bit easier.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to, like you said, Pat, I think the thing we just have to do is we have to realise he's not Rodri and he's never going to be Rodri.
Mm-hmm.
He's a completely different player from Rodri. And, as Pep has said himself, it's the hardest position to play on the pitch is that role. Do you know what I mean? Pep played it himself. He's coached some of the best players in that position, Rodri, Fernandinho. He knows what he wants from Nico G. He keeps trying to coach him and get the best out of him, but he's not going to do it unless he gets on the pitch. And this is an opportunity now while Rodri's out for Nico G to get more and more game time because that's what he ultimately needs. And for me, I've seen nothing but good things since he started. I do think there's a good player in there. I think he's got all the talent. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Rodri. What I'm saying is he's definitely a good enough player that I think he can play in that position. Do you know what I mean? And whether that's while Rodri's out or whether it's, when Rodri eventually leaves, whether he takes over that position full time, I don't know yet. I can't say that because I don't know. But what I can say is that at the moment, I feel when Rodri's not playing because of an injury, then I do have confidence that he can still step up.
Oh.
Yep. Rich, tell us why you think it should be Johnny Stones.
Yeah.
No, I think it should be Nico. I think he's done really well. I think for his age as well, for that position, I think he's 5 years before his prime in that position. I think, I think we don't necessarily need a really, really traditional six. And I actually don't think, I think Rodri's become less of a really traditional six and become more of a 6/8, through 2023. When he won the Ballon d'Or, it was because he was getting up the pitch and pinging balls around the opposition box as well as doing what he needed to do in front of the defence. So I think Nico's done really well. I think Pep is starting to trust him. I think Pep rates him as a footballer. You just see the way Pep talks to him and coaches him. He only does that he did that with Rodri, he did it with Fernandinho. I think he's, got a player he rates. But a lot of City fans do have an agenda against Nico. I think there's a lot of City fans who want to go and spend 150 million on Baleba, who I'm not even sure is a player who could fit into City's system, and ignore a player who hasn't had that many bad games. So even last season, I thought when he kind of came in the team and went out again, most fans didn't see that he hadn't had a shocker. It wasn't like Calvin Phillips where he wasn't doing anything. He'd had a reasonably good game, and we're all sitting there thinking, Pep must have seen something we didn't. But yeah, I'm just hoping he continues to make the agenda merchants eat their words and shows that he's can back up Rodri. I'd like to see him play alongside Rodri. I'd like to see that in a really big game against big physical top team, especially in the Champions League. That might be something good to see. So yeah, Nico, trust him. I think the player in midfield who needs to step up, who is Reinders. I think Reinders needs to realise he's not playing on the beach; he's playing in the Premier League, and his intensity, his speed of thought, etc., needs to get on because there was a hell of a footballer in there, but you can't play Serie A pace in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the things, just to pick up one of your points, Rich, about this agenda, and a lot of City fans want to see Nico G fail and bring in the likes of Baleba. Well, little fact here for you. Actually, Baleba this season has been pretty poor, and every game he has started, he's been subbed off at half time. Now there's the quotes of United were quoted by Brighton 100 million plus. Right now he's not looking like £100 million player. Let's be honest. So I think people are just going to have to get over that. I don't. I think Baleba is a good player, but I don't think City are going to touch three figures for a very long time, if ever again. So I think people just need to get that out of their heads.
Yeah, he's also much more box to box. He's much more. I think he's much more an 8 than a 6 anyway. I mean, I think someone just posted it, but if you want a player who can possibly be a future Rodri in the Premier League, it's probably Wharton, because he can pass, and he's a very young player, Wharton, but he's got the quality. I'm not, but I think we need a player who's far more about passing and control. If you want a Rodri, then Baleba is a far more dynamic player. Yeah, great footballer, but I just don't know that he's right for City, and he's certainly as far from Rodri in terms of that kind of position that you can get.
No, I agree with you, Rich. I think possibly next summer they will look at bringing in a midfielder, and I genuinely think, because they have been scouting Warren for quite a while, I think Warren is definitely high on the list, more so than Baleba.
Anderson's up there, yeah.
I mean, I think the Anderson thing, obviously that's been trending for the last few days. I think it was like 75 million. I thought I saw kind of no. I mean, yes, he's had a good international break, but in all honesty, I think just in one season where suddenly his name has been bandied around and now he's all of a sudden 75, 80 million. No.
Flavour of the month.
No, exactly. And that was going to be, you took the words out of my mouth, Pat. He is just flavour of the month right now.
I mean, guys, I was telling Martin this. I was watching, because when we were linked to Morgan Gibbs White, I watched a lot of Forest last year. And for me, he looked better than Morgan Gibbs White, to me.
I think depending on what happens with Tonali and Guimaraes, I just see Anderson going home.
Yeah.
He should never be at Forest. He's at Forest only because of cheating Premier League cartel rules to try and stop Newcastle competing. He should be home, and I think he'll go home. And I think at some point Tonali or Guimaraes will go. Newcastle will get big money, and Anderson will come back.
Well, Rich it's going to be next summer, so I don't think that will be a world record fee for Newcastle. 75 million.
Not necessarily, because if they have been smart in their business, they've put a buyback clause in there.
No, they don't. They don't have one. They don't have one.
Reported though, Ed, we don't know for definite. So it's happened in the past, and I'd be very surprised if they hadn't have done some sort of, even we did with Trafford having a match clause or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I really wouldn't be surprised.
And Brighton have shown they've got a history of holding out for the big transfer deals. I don't know that Forest have really shown that they can or they do that. So it'll be interesting to see whether Forest, same in some ways with Palace. Like Brighton have almost uniquely have held on for massive transfer fees and been able to do massive deals in terms of selling players. So when clubs go there to buy Baleba, they know it and they believe it because they've already done it. Forest, I don't know. They played all Baleba balls with huge fees for Morgan's Gibb White, and he's still there. So maybe they don't play that game quite as well.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Rich.
For me, when it comes to Nico, I think coming off of the Brentford game, that's probably his best game so far for us this season. So I think that's a good positive comeback off that game. And I think Everton is a good team for him to play against, because I feel like, at least in my opinion, the times he does struggle at times is when he is pressed heavily. Like we saw against Spurs, like we saw against other opposition. And I think Everton is a good matchup just for him, because I don't think Everton will press us. I think even if Rodri's out for a extended period of time, us going against Villarreal, I don't think Villarreal will press us that heavily. I think, a Villa would be a good standard test for a Nico G if Onana is back for them and Tillemans. So, I've been very happy with the progress he has been making. It seems like he is, Pep is coaching him up, and you wish him the best because he has a big role to play for us this season with Rodri trying to come back into the fold.
And the other thing, if when Rodri's out, we're really worried that we're going to have a team that's going to do that to us again, we can play Kovacic with Nico. You can play Kovacic with him, play Kovacic in the 8, but as a more defensive 8, and Kovacic can then carry the ball because he was good back there a lot of last season. I think it was Macca who said it, and people forget is that everyone says we fell off a cliff when Rodri got injured. I think technically we fell off the cliff when Kovacic got injured after Rodri got injured. So we actually held on a few games with Kovacic playing there, and then we got Kovacic injured and a couple of injuries at centre back, and then we really dropped off. So I think Kovacic gives us an option to, if we do think that Nico's under pressure, to bring him on and bring some experience, bring some drive into that centre midfield.
Yeah. One of the other areas, obviously, with injuries that we probably need to have a good look at is right back. Obviously, with Kuznov more than likely not going to start, at least. We've got 2 options, maybe 3. Nunes, Rico, and of course Johnny Stones. Pat, who is the most likely to start this game?
I'd probably have to say it's Matheus Nunes at the moment. I just I think Pep's very cautious with how he plays John Stones, and I think the proof was there in the fact that he had him playing basically as the right back / inverter when we played away at Monaco as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to do a similar sort of role for Villarreal midweek as well. Matheus has been doing a relatively decent job. Again, we always take it with a pinch of salt because he is a midfielder doing right back roles. But I think this is a sort of game where it would make more sense for Nunes to start. Rico Lewis, I just see that Everton midfield just bullying him all the time in this game. So I don't know if I'd really be that confident with him playing as the right back / the inverter. So I'd probably go with Matheus Nunes for this one.
Yeah,
with Oscar Bob.
Yeah,
because if you play Nunes, Savinho doesn't play.
True.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Rich. I think
the Norway's manager's comments might have cemented Bob's place in the team, because if Pep's read him, which I'm sure he has, that might be a guaranteed pick for Bob on the weekend.
Yeah,
unless
I think
he's really getting Mark Moose back in.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that right hand side at the moment is probably where we're quite vulnerable. Whether it's the attack or the defence, there just seems to be an issue. And regardless of Marmoush, because Moosh doesn't play out on the right wing, so you'd have to, as you kind of said earlier on about moving Doku out to the right wing. Well, do you really want to move Doku when he's been playing at the best at left right now, Rich? So it's difficult to say who definitely. I think Pat's right. I think the most likeliness is Nunes, because over the last few games, he has made less mistakes. He's been a little bit more solid. When I do look at the games, though, I do think he kind of gives that defence a bit of a worry. I think most of the time Diaz is looking across at him and kind of thinking, am I going to have to double up on him, just to make sure he doesn't make a defensive mistake, which then leaves, the middle of the park a bit open. So, and this is why we're missing Kuznov, really, because when Kuznov is back there, we don't have to worry so much. He's been so solid. Do you know what I mean?
I'm sorry, when Kuznov comes back, I'd like to see Doku on the right, because if Kuzanov's playing, it's going to be the winger who's going to go round the fullback and go to the touchline. I would like to see Marmoush on the left, Doku on the right, and see how that looks, because I've seen, not so much for City, but a bit for Belgium and stuff. I do like a winger playing on the correct side with their, right-footed winger on the right. And, when Nunes is playing, your winger is going to have to go inside because it's Nunes who's going to go down the flank. But when Kuzanov's playing, I think you could, try Doku on the right and try with Marmoush on the left, because Marmoush is way, way, way too good a footballer not to be starting.
And that's the headache Pepper's got.
Do you bring him in as starter though, given he's just been off for a few weeks?
Oh, I'm not saying tomorrow. I mean, he needs some game time. He needs to play his way back in. But I'm saying if he gets to the form of last season and we get to, even more so at home, where his form at the Etihad was he was the best player at the Etihad from when he signed for the rest of the season. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that. Foden in the middle, Cherky coming on for whoever, needs a rest, and then Kuznov right back. But when Nunes is there, I think we have to play Bob right wing.
Yeah, I mean, talking about playing players back into match fitness though, we talked about O'Reilly earlier, but Acknowledge is going to need game time. He's going to have to kind of get up to speed, back from an injury. We're going to need him at some point. So, I'm not saying he's going to start, but for me, he's got to feature, hasn't he? Because he's another player you've got to integrate back into the squad.
True, but I think for now it's O'Reilly's position to lose, and maybe Nori is fortunate the fact that we've got back-to-back cup matches in the next 2 weeks as well, so there might be an opportunity for him to play his way back in as well. I think Villarreal and Swansea would be good games for him to play his way back in too. But for me right now, it's Nico O'Reilly's position to lose, and I wouldn't be giving it up to somebody who's just coming back from, a 4 or 5 week break from an international, not just internationals, but from an injury as well too. So it's funny how the world works. We cried out for 12 years wanting a left back, and then we finally get one, and now our number one choice left back is a 19-year-old center attacking mid.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be City without something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that in Pep's eyes, Nico is our starting left back. To be honest, I think. In the fans' eyes,
not in the long run, but for now he is. Yeah,
he is. But I think Pep will be looking to get if as soon as I know he's fully fit, he'll be getting game time off Pep. So, I think it is good to have, next few weeks start Aït-Nouri against Villarreal and Swansea, and then by the time we get to the next break in Liverpool, it's a straight fight between the two of them. But I'm quite happy against Everton to start, O'Reilly. But I think everyone's saying that O'Reilly's the number one now. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think Aït-Nouri is a hell of a footballer, and is going to, prove to be that for City. O'Reilly possibly too, but I'm not sure O'Reilly in the long term will be a left back.
No, I kind of agree with you there, Rich. I think Aït-Nouri going forward will be the left back, starting left back under Pep. And O'Reilly, I think at the moment he's going to be a backup, and he's also going to have game time in the centre of midfield. Because he's young and he's still got time to get into this team properly. So I don't think we need to put on so much pressure so soon. Do you know what I mean? He's got so much time, and I think he has got a future. City. We don't need to rush it. I do. I really do. Talking of the midfield, just wanted to your points earlier, Rich, about Reinders. I agree with what you said. I think there has been. I think in the Brentford game, I think he was a lot better. I still think he's just, as you said earlier, I think he's just a couple of seconds behind. Do you know what I mean? I think he hasn't quite yet adapted to the league as quickly as we all would have hoped. But there is so much talent in there. We know, we can see it. He just needs that just a couple more seconds to be up to speed.
Yeah. I mean, Rodri wasn't either. That was Rodri's problem in his first season. He, it was almost like I don't know if you're playing in La Liga or Serie A, you get the ball and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 action. When it's in the Premier League, you've got to go 1, 2 action. It's almost like he's just got to. It's almost like he's been trained and he knows the time he's got to do something, and suddenly that time's been truncated, and he's just got to retrain himself to just take that action that little bit quicker. And when he does, he'll be absolutely flying.
He's got so many good qualities to his gameplay.
Until then, he's going to lose the ball a bit, and yeah.
Ed, you've been a bit quiet, mate. What are your thoughts on Reinders?
No, I mean, I feel like with Reinders, I kind of agree with what you guys been saying. I think he's also been so close to having that moment that can maybe spark, that positive progress for us. He's been in a lot of good positions to score a goal. I think that assist for Haaland was a good moment for him, but I think he's been so close to having something that can just spark him on for the rest of the season, and he's getting in good positions going forward. I think even defensively, I think at least on my side, I've seen some improvements when it comes to that, and I think with a lot of the rest of the team, we're waiting for him to put a full 90 together. And, I think that's a big question also coming off of this international break. Can we put a full 90 together? Because we've been good in a lot of games in the first half, but in the second half, it feels like we take our foot off the gas or of his fitness, but we just haven't been the same team. And that's really something I'm going to be looking at in these upcoming games.
Yeah, but the strength of the bench changes that because, we don't know who's going to be there on Saturday, but when you can bring on Marmoush, Cherky, Aitnouri, and players like that, Stones, Kovacic, etc., are all probably on the bench on Saturday. When you can bring on that quality, that's going to make a very different scenario to the second half than when you're bringing on players who are, really young or not fully fit or up and coming. So that does change for us, I think.
Yeah. I think we have to remember since January, this team has dramatically been overhauled. The squad, if you compare it to the squad of when we won the treble, it's just so much different. We've lost some big key players, some proper leaders on and off the pitch, so it has had a big effect. And some of the new players that have come in, are still finding their footing. Some have, come in and got injured straight away. So there's just so much still to come. And, currently, we're sat 5th in the league, a few points off the top spot. And we're thinking, all these other clubs around us that are ahead of us, in those spots. But really and truly, if you're looking at who the team is in form right now, it's City. When we've got so much to come back and add to this team, the likes of Cherky, the likes of Aitnouri, the likes of Guvenoc and Kovacic, so yeah.
I had a question for you guys.
Cherky playing this weekend? I'm probably seeing him more as a super sub. Someone that just changes the dynamic of the game, regardless of what the scoreline is.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be starting Aitnouri, Marmoush, Cherky, or any of the players coming back from injury. I think, especially because he hasn't had that much time to work with the squad. I think you'll see, the first name on the team sheet is going to be Phil because he's had a rest and he's raring to go. So the chances of Cherky starting on the only reason Cherky would start is if for some reason Bob was carrying a little knock against New Zealand because he didn't have a great game. Was he carrying a little knock? And was Savinho down in Brazil?
I don't think he got pulled out.
No,
did he?
No.
Okay, so that case, you're probably going to, we might see Savinho start them, which it's a bit worrying if Nunes starts. We'd have to probably start Rico if Savinho starts. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But it'll be as close to Brentford as Pep can get, because he won't want much change.
No, I agree, Rich. I don't think we'll see Cherky and the likes of the other injured players that are coming back. They're going to need time, especially Cherky, because he's only played one game realistically. So he needs time to bed into the team.
But remember, he was back in the squad for Brentford, so he's definitely. I think Marmoush and all them probably have come back in later into the fold. I think he will be a sub. I don't think he starts, but I think he's been training more and maybe he's more up to speed than the other guys coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially if we're, Pep is using subs more now. I think Pep has finally realised that, in terms of keeping players fit, in terms of having a bigger squad, being used to playing football, I think we're playing subs more. So I think we'll see another 3-4 subs on, and I think we'll probably see Cherky. I think we'll probably see Marmoush. I don't know about Nouri because we don't change the fullbacks as often. I think we'll probably see Kovacic, all coming off the bench and getting some game time.
Yeah.
And Cherky's exciting. I mean, it's hard to see where he plays because for me, he plays in the same position as Phil, and Phil's, along with Haaland and Doku, been phenomenal this season. So it's hard to see where he plays, but he's so good. He's such a maverick. He's so exciting that we're all looking forward to him being on the pitch just to see what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gives almost Balotelli vibes in a way, doesn't he, Rich?
Yeah, let's.
It's an interesting show.
I was about to say, I don't think he's that far.
We haven't had a player since Balotelli that gives that a little bit of a level of unpredictability, but at the same time, he's only 5 seconds away from some absolute brilliance.
Yeah, I thought you were Balotelli vibes. I was thinking Luke Littner and Ronnie Biggs, but anyway,
Oh no, I was thinking leaving £20,000 worth of parking tickets when he leaves the club.
But no,
or grabbing his crotch at the United fans.
Yeah, he's another player who he's like Donnarumma. He looks about 10 years older than he is. He's been around for about 10 years longer than he should have been around for. I mean, it's quite funny. I was having a bit of an argument with I guess a gobshite would be the word, Arsenal fan the other day, and he was going about Raya's better than Donnarumma, and well, no, he isn't. Look what Donnarumma's done. And he goes, yeah, but Donnarumma's so much older than Raya. And I'm like, no, Donnarumma's 4 years younger than Raya. Donnarumma's pretty much done what Raya, all he'd done by the age Raya was when he signed for Brentford. I mean, so it's just, it's everyone forgets Cherky's like, a baby, but he looks about 40 and he's been playing for 10 years. Donnarumma's a baby and he looks about 40 and he's been playing for 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, I think where Cherky could get in is that right wing position, because for me, no one has nailed it down yet. Bob, Savinho, neither have nailed it, convincingly. So I think if you could say that he wants to get into this starting 11, then that's probably where he could aim at right now. But I agree, Rich, where, ideally he's more in the Foden position, but you don't want to take Foden out of this squad right now, let's be honest.
I think you're right, but only when Kuzanov's back. I think the idea of Cherky, I think, is going to take 6 months to get used to the pressing and positional play at City. They're never going to play him when we've got a backup, non-proper right back playing in that position, because I think you put so much risk on the right. If you had Cherky and Nunes, a right back is not a defender, and a right winger is not tactically astute. I think, at the moment in the way City play, but when Kuzanov's back, I think you can afford them to.
Even against a low block, Rich? Like, even against a low block, him linking up with a Nunes or linking up with a Foden against what could be a low block?
I think against a low block, you have a real risk of a break from 60 yards out and no one on the right-hand side of the pitch to stop it. I think it would worry me almost even more in that scenario that Nunes would be up on the byline having put a cross in, Cherky would have wandered off to the middle, and we'd have Trent Alexander style defending at right back, i.e. no one there. But if Kuzanov's playing, then you can do what, defensively, you can do what you want ahead.
Question for you, Rich, and to the rest of the panel. Kuzanov has been brilliant at right back, but there has been a lot of chat about City going out in January and signing a right back. Now, for me, I don't think we need to do that in January. I think we can possibly look at it in the summer. But for you guys, do you think, yes, give him the season at right back, see how he gets on? Obviously, if he was to become our right back solution, then it's, well, what does that kind of look like for the rest of centre backs? Now, we know that more likely Ake, and I'm sorry to say, Rich, but Stones will probably leave in the summer. So then it's like, well, then we have to look at that option. So what are your thoughts on it?
I'll leave mine to the end. No, I'll leave mine to the end.
You go, Rich. Go on, Pat. Rich.
Yeah, no, for me, if someone comes and suggests to me a really good right back who fits in the squad, possibly needing to be homegrown and is signable, then yeah, fantastic. But I've not really seen any credible options for City. Livramento may be credible from our side, but if Newcastle don't want to sell, it's not an option. If Newcastle don't want to sell and he's not going to push it, he's not coming. So I don't want us to sign a player for the sake of it. It would just be silly. I think, Nunes was one who perhaps it was Pep's, love of him, or perhaps it was just signing a player for the sake of it. I don't want to sign a player for the sake of it. Yep. So we can go with that right back for the next 5 years if we're not going to sign the right one. If someone comes up and says, there's this player and they're a really good right back and they're happy to sign for City and deal can get done with the club, brilliant. I'd do it January 1st. But I haven't seen a credible link to anyone who, apart from Livramento, and I don't think that was credible because Newcastle didn't want to let him go. He wasn't coming.
Yep. Sam Skip says it here. To be honest, the right back market isn't exactly full of potential that's going to take City forward, unless you talk about a certain Moroccan who plays for PSG. That's about it, really.
Well, I have heard links, and again, this has come from a reliable source who we all know. Jules Koundé, apparently City are looking at, but I think as much as I think he's a decent player and been a good right back, I just think that's a deal that is really hard to do. And why would you want to leave Barcelona? Barcelona are going to want a lot of money for him.
Yeah, he's about to renew his contract too, so that'll jack the price up even more.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with Richard's point to Livramento and kind of having an English quota, well, I think for Livramento, I think I agree with Rich. Like, as much as I pushed that deal in the summer, and I could see it happening, but the problem is we were going to have to pay well over the odds for it. But now I just feel that the position has changed from the club. I think they are seriously wanting to keep their best players. Little concerned with his injury record now that he's injured yet again. But I just feel Newcastle are now kind of like, we're not going to let go of our best players. There is talk of him signing a new contract, and so Newcastle signing him down for it. So you're right. I think the right back market is really difficult right now. I think we may have to look at that short term option of keeping Kuznetsov at right back, but then looking at bringing in another centre back.
Yeah.
And for me, the obvious choice to fill that quota would be Gahey from Crystal Palace. But is he going to want to come and play possibly second fiddle? Because at the moment we've got, two centre backs, which for me are doing a great job right now.
Well, I don't know if you saw the Blues Down Under versus Stateside Blues watch along we had the other day, Aussie, but Martin did mention something about there is a possibility, there is some word going around that maybe Liverpool or Palace might be interested in Nathan Ake. and that there is a possibility that Palace may do some sort of business with us in terms of maybe sending Mark Gahey the other way. Maybe not in January, more than likely in the summer, but there is some sort of work going on in the background there for now. But just going on to the whole right back thing with Kuznetsov, I think again a combination of there isn't necessarily anybody that stands out in the right back market unless Hakimi becomes available to us. And again, as alluding to what Rich said, City don't spend for the sake of spending either. They're very cautious, they're very methodical about the way they go about what signings they want as well too. And I think right now, this is a good opportunity for Kuznetsov to, once he's fully fit, to give himself the opportunity to go and try and make himself the mainstay at the right back position. There is a possibility now that maybe we're looking at a sort of with Kuznetsov a different dynamic in terms of a Kyle Walker-esque sort of player, something that could happen in the future as well. So I think it's this season might be his opportunity to make that position his own, because at the end of the day, there is every opportunity that we may even look in-house in terms of who might be competing for him in that role. But also too, I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to make it his position, because for now, until between now and summer, there's not really anything that sort of links us or look in the market and say, yeah, this is a player I'd like to get in the club.
Yeah, I'm just terrified that a certain Scouser. I'm really terrified that a certain Scouser is not going to go well at Madrid, and we're going to give him a lifeline, because I think it's the sort of player Pep would like, and that terrifies me a bit, because
I don't see it, Rich. As much as I'd love to see Liverpool fans have a massive meltdown about that, I don't think so. I tell you who surprised me. Name was shouted out by Pep recently in a press conference was Max. I can't remember his second name now, but he's on loan at Watford from us.
Max Alane.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite
supposed to be a phenomenal young player.
Yeah, he's doing really well at Watford at the moment. And I just thought it was really interesting that he was on Pep's radar to mention him in a press conference. Yeah. I thought it was, and I'm not saying all of a sudden that he's suddenly going to come in now and be that player, but I think
we got a couple of center backs in the academy that's doing a really good job.
Yeah, and that was going to be my point, is that we've got some really good academy players now. And for the first time in a long time, we've talked a lot about academy players on this channel. We've talked about, bigging them up and saying, is that one going to make it? Is this one going to make it? Or is it a money-making scheme? For the first time in a long time, I actually think now that we can see some of these academy players coming into the first team, that we can start seeing that what we've all really wanted, that La Masia, kind of production role of academy players actually making it at City. And also, Pep is now also seriously looking at the youth from the academy and going, I can use these players like the likes of O'Reilly coming in and having the impact that he's made. Go on, Rich.
Unless we get pretty active in the transfer market, he has to, because next summer Grealish is going to be gone. Phillips, who's taking up a slot, even if he's not taking up a place in the team, is gone. Ake potentially gone. Stones potentially gone. So we are going to have next to no association
Bernardo,
played. Well, no, but they're foreign trained, and we've got players coming in for them in their slots. But we are going to have a massive drop in the size of the squad based on homegrown players going. The only way we can fill those slots is either from the academy or from signing UK trained players. So that's a big problem. Losing Ake and Stones together is a big problem for City, because you're losing two players and we can't go out. We can't replace them with Price, or we can for a year or something, but we can't replace them with these signings from the continent. So we've got to look at predominantly English, British players, or the academy, or our squad's going to drop by 4 or 5 players, and Trafford will probably go too. So we're likely to see, of our eight association trained players, 5 are probably going to go next summer. So that's the 5 smaller squad, or we trust youth players, or we go and sign English players. So we really, the likes of Gay, Wharton are going to be it's going to be pretty important to us to sign a couple.
Yeah, and this
Yeah,
is why
Rich,
I could
that's-
see the likes of Gahey, Wharton coming in, because they are, I think, the quite top quality players that we would like, and also they fit that profile of British UK based
Elise,
Elise being another one.
Yep.
Gahey makes a lot of sense to me, and I know a lot of people in the chat are saying, "Why would he come here?" When Liverpool is actually linked to the center back at Dortmund in January, they're heavily linked to him right now. Yeah, but also I think Gahey would do one thing people forget about, and we don't really have a backup, or I don't want to call Gahey a backup, but he can be a nice rotation for either the right center back or the left center back. And honestly, I don't want to see Vardio play as many games as he did last season. I think that's one of the reasons why in the summertime he was hampered, and it took a little while for him to come into this season. And we really don't have somebody right now that can spare him if we think about it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things for me as well is that obviously we know about the links with Liverpool and them nearly signing him in the summer, but for me, like, they handled that so badly. Like, for a serious supposed club to come in on the last day and make a complete mess of it, what does that say to the player? I mean, realistically, he's going to be thinking, well, if you really wanted me, you'd have come in a lot sooner, but you left it to the last day, the deal collapsed, and that's left me at Crystal Palace. Now, that's not offense to Crystal Palace, but it's just for the player and a step up in his development. I mean, if I was him, I'd be going, really, I want to go to a club where I know that I'm wanted and appreciated and they know what I'm worth, you know. So I think Liverpool potentially lost out on this.
No, I think a good point's made in the chat. Honestly, Van Dijk's got a year left, if that. Konate's off. You know, you've got a guaranteed start at Liverpool for 10 years. So I think, you know, as much as I, you know, do love Gahey as a player, I can't see him coming to City because he could go to Liverpool and he's guaranteed to start any game he wants to for as long as he wants to. Or you can go to City and maybe be third or fourth choice. It's, you know, personally, I think we're going to struggle to.
Rich, you don't think he'll back himself to get ahead of Diaz?
Why, if you're going to come in and replace Van Dijk, why would you bother to?
Well, Van Dijk's just signed a new deal, Rich.
Van Dijk. Yeah, he signed a new deal.
Yeah, but he's going to be. He's dropping already. You can
plus
see
he's
it.
The captain.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if he's playing crap, and he's dropping. They're not going to play him for 3 years just because he's, you know, if his game's gone. Now,
but also, Rich, you have to look at it. If Liverpool were to lose this season the title and they don't even mount a proper challenge, what does that say to the player? Like, realistically, do I want to play for Pep Guardiola and Manchester City, who are proven winners of winning leagues and winning, you know, Champions Leagues and cups, or am I going to go to a club where Slot, you know, doesn't have the season that Liverpool fans think he's going to have? He suddenly, you know, becomes there.
Yeah, flip side to that. Do you want to sign for City and play Brentford, Swansea, and Stoke, or do you want to sign for Liverpool and play Real Madrid and, you know, Manchester City and things? Because if Gahey comes to City, we've just signed a massive new deal with Diaz, and Guardiola's the best left-sided centre-back in the world. If he comes to City, he is not going to play without an injury. He is not going to start the biggest games, and he's too good a player to come and not do that. If he goes to Liverpool, he's guaranteed, even whilst Van Dijk's still playing, he's guaranteed to start alongside Van Dijk in every massive game. So, and I suspect there'll be other clubs who come in for him. I suspect you know, there's a lot of talk that PSG will come in for him and they'll offer him a starting spot. So I think as much as we've got, you know, Guardiola, and as much as I'm hoping we win the league next year and say that, I don't think being on City's bench, I think we'll see it from Trafford. Being on City's bench is not as good as starting for a team who aren't as good as City.
Yeah. And of course, we've got loanee players out currently that are doing pretty well, and they might have a future at City that we've not got onto. So, you know, but I just think, you know, regardless if it's with Gay or not, we've still got some bright talents that are coming through out of the academy or players that are currently out on loan. So I don't think we can really lose. Let's be honest. You know, we've got talent everywhere. We've got talent. Yeah, I just think that the future looks very bright when we're looking at what we've currently got and what we currently get. So, Rich, I'm aware that you've got to head off soon. So yeah, let's do our predictions for the Everton game. Do you want to kick us off, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably we'll all like Brentford last week. We'll all end up going similar, but I think it's going to be City win. I think we'll keep a clean sheet. I was tossing up 1-2 or 3-0. I'm not sure. So I'll go for the average. I'll go 2-0 because I think we'll win. I don't think it'll be a massive win. So I'll go 2-0. I think, you know, that'll be about the game. I wouldn't be surprised if we only get the one, but with Big Earl, you've got to bet on us getting at least 2.
Yeah, no, definitely. Pat, what's your score prediction, mate?
I think we'll finally start getting our shooting boots on playing this Everton squad at home. Don't think there'll be any sort of boring or dull football that we've been susceptible to when we played them over the last couple of seasons. I expect Haaland to have his shooting boots on as always. That being said, I think Everton are a much more respectable team now. They seem to be playing some decent football under David Moyes, so I still expect them to be somewhat competitive. But I think we'll just be too strong on the day. I'm going to go with 3-1.
Okay. Ed, what about yourself, mate? What your score?
Yeah, I'm torn between a 2-0 or a 3-1. I'm gonna go with a 3-1. I think Haaland gets a brace, and I think somebody gets another goal.
Okay. Yeah, that seems pretty all sensible picks. I mean, I think I agree. Like, I can see a clean sheet, in all honesty. I think because with them not having Grealish available, I think, you know, he has been really good for them. You know, he's made some really decent assists and got a goal. So I think they're going to be missing him. I think that may just have an impact more than people realise. I agree that, you know, David Moyes is a good manager, and I think he can make a team difficult to break down. But I think we're just such on fire at the moment, and Haaland's such on fire at the moment, that I think it'd be a clean sheet. And I'm kind of leaning against between a 2 or 3-0. And I'm going to say, just to be optimistic, I think it could be 3-0. So,
good call, because we've got a few 2-0s. I think.
I think I should go do different.
2-0. So going different, you're giving yourself more of a chance of, you know, taking a spot.
I can't bring up the leaderboard, but I believe it's me and you, Rich, that are kind of neck and neck at the top of the board. And I think it's still Alan languishing at the bottom, and then I think you and Martin are at the bottom there as well. So Martin's at the bottom. Sorry.
So does that mean I'm the Manchester City? I'm just sitting off the top, waiting to strike in February.
Yeah, we're waiting for you to come from behind.
You two are just Liverpool and the Arsenal. Yeah.
So what's Alan's thing going to be? He's going to have to eat a doner kebab on the screen with
the long way. The long way.
A night out in Liverpool.
Yeah, wearing a Liverpool top. Wearing a Liverpool shirt.
Having a Liverpool tattoo carved onto his arm and a Palestine bandana on his head. Yeah.
Oh, jeez, Rich, that's just painted a really wicked picture.
Sitting down having a coffee with a cardboard cutout of Jeremy Corbyn and Keir Starmer.
Wow. Can you imagine having to get tattoos of Jeremy Corbyn and Keir Starmer on his buttocks or something? That would be hilarious.
Get a Labour tattoo. Labour tattoo on his lower back, you know, like the ones that girls get, you know, like
Maybe we get him a blow up, you know, Greta Thunberg doll. Yeah. You know.
Oh, see, we mentioned him 3 times. He's on.
Hey, Alan, mate, how you doing? If you lose, mate, this is what's going to happen.
Alan,
We're going to come with some
Alan,
really.
you better start getting your predictions right.
Well, Alan's coming with 2-0. Just following everybody else.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think on that note, with Rich having to leave, and we have been going for just over 2 hours. It has been a really good show tonight. Just like
So
to
he's still
thank.
going piss off.
Just like to thank Macca for coming on earlier. Really good to have his Thursday night chat debut, and hopefully we'll get him back on soon. Also having Ed back on. Sorry, Pat, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say big up to Simon, Adam Quinn, Foggy with the memberships, and Benji with the £2 super chat as well.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you to everyone who's contributed tonight and obviously watched and communicated in the community chat. It's all appreciated. We really appreciate all your support. If you haven't hit the thumbs up and the like, really appreciate that. And obviously, if you're not subscribed, what are you doing here?
Yeah, we're currently on 99. Can we get it to 100 before we wrap up, please?
Yes, thank you, Pat. Like I said earlier on, Martin obviously has managed not to appear. So I am very happy that he actually is taking the night off. We've had a few personal messages come from on our WhatsApp group, but apart from that, I've not really seen him. So I hope he's having a good night with the missus. He will be back at the weekend for the post match. He did say to me that he may do another show. What's the late night show? After Dark.
It's called the I Have Not Got an Agenda show. So he can,
thank you,
he can
Rich.
ring in and complain that he hasn't got an agenda. Yeah.
Oh, guys, we're going to be on X tonight. We're going to be on X tonight. Martin hit me up on WhatsApp. We're going to be on X tonight.
Wow, he's just, what's he doing? Seriously. Ed, tell him, get off bloody X and have the night off completely. Seriously.
Mate, I've tried. We all know how Martin is.
Yeah, sadly we do. Anyway, hopefully he won't be on there long because he, like I said, he should be having a complete night off. But this is Martin, and we know what he's like. You just can't resist doing something. But anyway, yes, thank you again to everyone. We, like I said, we will all hopefully be back on Sunday night with hopefully another City win. And again, thank you so much for watching. We will catch you on the next one. Good night, everyone.
See you, everyone.